Hey, what's up, Speedy's Garage gang? Welcome back to the Speedy's Garage YouTube channel. Just about got Go Man Go cleaned up from the track outing this past weekend. If you're a channel member, you got to see the results of the new modifications we made to the car, and they turned out really, really good. Finish cleaning this up, and tonight I'm going to kind of chit chat about this latest teaser that Dodge has put out on the number 7 special edition car, and it's a doozy. So let's get into it. Okay, so tonight was the third teaser video. If you're not aware, if you're watching this channel, you probably already are, but just to recap, Dodge is coming out with a number 7. They had 6 kind of special editions that were really more sticker and badge packages, I'll call them. Not super impressive, nothing mechanically much different about those cars, but this number 7 car is supposed to be like the holy grail of Dodge Challengers for this platform. And there's been all kinds of speculation on how much horsepower it's going to make, what the power plant's going to be, how much boost it'll make, and they've been releasing some Easter egg teasers the past few weeks leading up to the vehicle's announcement or release, which will be March 20th. Tonight was the third, or today was the third video teaser. The first one was called Run and Hide, and it was basically a leprechaun who hooks up an IV bag, which we're all assuming is E85, converts him into a more badass leprechaun. Run and Hide, H-Y-D-E, kind of a play on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, kind of makes sense. The second video teaser was called Density Matters. And I'll show you these real quick too. It had the regular leprechaun and the more badass leprechaun, I'll call it, get on a scale, and then the heavier, the more badass leprechaun made the scale tip, and it said 7.1 pounds at the bottom. And a lot of that speculation is thinking that that's the boost pressure from a larger supercharger. Tonight's is a little more interesting. Those of you that watch the channel a little bit, y'all know I kind of like math and engineering, and anytime there's a puzzle that involves math, it's kind of fun, and it's kind of got my attention now. At first I was like, I don't know about all this leprechaun stuff, but the Easter egg and trying to figure it all out is going to be kind of neat to see what it all actually ends up meaning in the end. But tonight's release looks like a sort of a equation. And it says 105 at, and then a multiplication. I think it's 2.08 times 2.98 or 3.02 times 2.98. And it ends up being, I'll do the math real quick. I'm sorry, it's 3.02 times 2.98. And you basically get an 8.9996, which would be just under, and this is something Dodge would probably do, it would be just under the legal speed one of these modern cars is now allowed to run according to new NHRA rules. They can run to 9 flat without having to have a roll cage. So having it run at 8.9996 would be kind of funny, that would be, you know, just barely under what it would take to put a roll cage in. And the 105, I'm betting that is the octane rating of E85, and then it's looks like a Kestrel Weather DA tool that the leprechaun is, or someone's holding and the leprechaun blows through, and it's called Scream at 215 miles an hour. So I don't know what the 215 means. That's kind of weird. We'll have to see what that ends up being. Maybe a standing mile speed perhaps, but I don't know if that's enough. I think it'd take more horsepower than what this car would make to run 215, unless it's like super light. But it looks like you're going to have a handheld that looks like it maybe programs something into the car to enable this extra performance. And I started thinking, like, well, if you multiply those numbers together, and it really does mean 105 octane at 8.9996, and then the last part of it is it says 1582 after it does the calculation and the leprechaun blows through the unit. What if that is mile per hour, 158.2? That's been some of the guys on the hellcatforum.org website. We've been kind of talking about it. That was some of their speculation too. And it sort of makes sense because 158.2 is actually plenty of mile per hour to run at 8.9996. But a lot of times your car can make quite a bit more power, but it's a little harder to put it to the ground, especially on something that's considered or should be considered a street car. And so you'll have more mile per hour than the ET really justifies. Like my car ran 145 mile per hour recently, if you saw the video, the channel members, but the ET didn't quite match what 140 mile per hour would be, and it's because getting the car off the line fast enough, because it, you know, pretty good amount of weight to it, it takes a little bit more, but the mile per hour will always be the mile per hour, and it's really a representation of horsepower. So hope that makes sense. So with those 3 videos now out, there's going to be, I think, one more next week. And then, of course, the announcement is on March 20th. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you guys think this latest one means with the calculations. That 1582, some people thought it might be air charge going into the supercharger, and I think the 3-liter supercharger will make more than that. Measurements in milligrams or grams. I think it's going to make more than 1,582 milligrams of air charge if it's the 3-liter supercharger. I think it's going to be. And 1320 is the number of feet in a quarter mile, so it's not that. I thought maybe it was feet per second of 215 miles an hour, and that's not it. I went and looked that up. So I don't know what the 1582 is. The 158.2 mile per hour makes the most sense. But I will say, if it's going to have carbon fiber wheels, and I went on some automotive calculators that sort of calculate horsepower and other metrics for the quarter mile based on some vehicle variables. So I started putting in different weights, and I wanted to see what horsepower would calculate to either an 8.9996 ET or 158.2 mile an hour. And if you do that, you end up getting, let's see, I started off guessing the weight would be 3,900 pounds. We know it's going to be lighter, especially if it has carbon fiber wheels, than a regular Hellcat. And Hellcats are if they're set up for racing, around 4,300 pounds if you're talking about a Challenger, which this car is. So with a 3,900 pound weight and an ET of 8.9996, 158.2 mile an hour, you end up with, according to this calculator, 949 rear wheel horsepower and 1,054 flywheel horsepower, and that's based on the ET, the 8.9996. The horsepower based on the mile per hour is 1,084 rear wheel horsepower and 1,205 flywheel horsepower, according to this calculator. So that sounds like a whole lot. I would lean more towards that first number, that 1,054. My prediction has always been 1,009 horsepower, but it might be a little bit more than that. And as you go down in weight, let's put the same ET and mile per hour in and lower the weight a little bit. Let's see, I said 3,900 pounds. What if it's 3,700 pounds? Now we're at let's see, takes a little bit less. So yeah, so now you're at 900 rear wheel horsepower and 1,000 flywheel horsepower, almost exactly, if the car weighs 3,700 pounds based on the ET, and if it's based on the mile per hour, it's 1,029 rear wheel horsepower and 1,143 flywheel. So it very well could be that they're going to make this car much lighter. And I looked up a drag pack, kind of out of curiosity. You know, they're the race car version, right? They're pretty stripped out, but they're really light. They're like, I think 3,400 pounds, somewhere around in there. So even if you add in some amenities to make it a street car, and they put carbon fiber wheels on it, maybe it's got a carbon fiber hood and deck lid and who knows what else, and they put some lightweight materials in it and took out some of the stuff that, you know, you might not need, you could get this car down pretty lightweight, I think. I don't know what speed you got to have a parachute. I think it's 150. So if this thing's going to run 158.2, that would be the only thing, is now you're talking about parachute territory, and I don't know that you would get a parachute on a street car. But hey, what if it came with a crate like the Demon did, has the handheld in it for the E85 race tune option, and it included some kind of bolt-on, hook it up parachute deal as part of it, and some lightweight There's speculation that's going to have carbon fiber wheels, which would be extremely lightweight. They'll be delicate, so you have to be really careful with them. They're strong and light, but if you nick them or scratch them or anything like that, they're pretty much done. And carbon fiber wheels, at least on the Mustang that had them for a while. I think the GT500 was an option, and I think they came standard on the GT350R. They're about $5,000 each. So I've heard a rumor that it's going to have carbon fiber wheels as well. So it's getting pretty interesting. We'll get one more hint next week, like I said. Super curious to see what that one looks like. The name is still something that I'm not sure of. They're not going to call it a leprechaun. It's got gold eyes, and it's March, and leprechauns are known for wearing green. So I'm wondering if it's going to have something to do with the color of the car. Maybe the cars are going to be F8, which is the green color, maybe a gold accent in it or something. That's why the eyes are kind of a yellowy gold color on the leprechaun. So that's it. That's the update for tonight. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. It's @Speedys_garage, as well as the website, www.speedysgarage.net. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you guys think is going on.